everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, back again with another news video. Tom has already done a news update earlier today, but we have yet more stories to talk about from the world of wrestling. Quite a lot of varied stories as well in this one, so it should keep your attention all the way through. Cheers, guys. Let's look at those headlines. First of all, the original plans for Hell in a Cell 2020 have been revealed. Next up, we have an update on the status of Andrade, who, remember, is still a free agent in the WWE draft. And finally, a WWE Hall of Famer's daughter says that she is set to return to the ring in future. So, first of all, let's go to PW Insider, who've been talking about a big match that was planned for Hell in a Cell, but has since been scrapped and replaced with another proposed match that looks set to go ahead. So apparently the original match that was planned would have been The Fiend challenging Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. If you remember, there were a few little seeds sown for that potential feud over on SmackDown, with The Fiend introducing the Wobbly Walrus character, which was supposed to be a shot at Paul Heyman in the Firefly Funhouse. But apparently, and I didn't actually notice this, apparently the Walrus appearance was just like a one-off and didn't actually appear again after its debut in mid-September. So that's a bit of a strange one. It does seem to imply that a feud was potentially brewing between the pair, but obviously Fiend never really got his rematch, did he? Did he? I don't think he did. Now obviously the rematch rule has been relaxed in recent years, but you'd expect a character with like the ferocity and the stature of the Fiend, and somebody who's been so prominent on SmackDown over the past year or so would get their rematch, but that didn't exactly happen. And then, of course, the draft recently happened. The Fiend has now been moved over to Monday Night Raw. Roman is still very much on SmackDown as the Universal Champion, and it seems like the plans for that feud have been scrapped. But instead, it seems like another feud is there for the Fiend in the near future, and the clue, according again to PW Insider, was on this week's Raw, because you may have noticed that after losing a match, Andrade was attacked by the Fiend, then Zelina Vega was simultaneously attacked by Alexa Bliss, who is now, by the way, fully aligned with the Fiend. Well, apparently that's going to become a feud, like a kind of a mixed tag feud, I suppose, between the Fiend and Alexa, and on the other side, Andrade and Zelina Vega. Yes, that is said to be a planned feud for the Raw brand, which is strange given the fact that Andrade did obviously kind of disown Zelina Vega and Angel Garza angrily on a recent episode of Raw after Zelina Vega lost to Asuka. Very strange stuff there indeed, but I guess we'll have to see where it goes. Next up, let's talk about Andrade, and let's talk about an update on his WWE status, because of course he was one of the big names alongside Mickie James who was left undrafted after SmackDown and Raw. Well, again, according to PW Insider, the plan for both Andrade and Mickie James, as it turns out, is to remain on the Raw brand. Now, that seems to lend credence to the other story we've just talked about, the one saying that Andrade and Zelina Vega are going to feud with The Fiend and Alexa Bliss on Raw, because, I mean, if Andrade wasn't on Raw, that probably wouldn't be happening, would it? Now, this is obviously big news for Mickie James, because she, I think, is out with a broken nose, but also big news for Andrade, because I think there was a lot of recent speculation after a tweet he put out that he'd be either moving back down to NXT or just leaving WWE altogether. That's because the tweet that Andrade put out read, thank you, and then some, like, bro fists, you know? And a lot of people took that as meaning, right, well, thanks for this WWE run, I'm off now for pastures new. But Charlotte Flair has since said that apparently Andrade there was thanking Zelina Vega in tweet form. I'm still uncertain what that means. Does that mean he's thanking her for, you know, coming to his rescue when he was attacked by the Fiend? Does that mean he's thanking her for their time together and now they're splitting up? Oh no, they can't be splitting up though, because the rumor is that they're meant to be feuding with Fiend and Alexa later on, so not sure what that's about. Of course, it may have been, you know what, it may have been a genuine thanks to Zelina Vega for helping him when he was being beaten down by the Fiend. Obviously, she didn't really succeed because they were both hit with stereo sister Abigails from Fiend and Alexa, but you know, at the same time, it was, I guess the thought was there from Zelina. Next up, let's go to AEW, where Cody was talking to the Asbury Park Press about possible joint promotional shows involving AEW. This comes off the back of a lot of speculation that AEW will be entering into a working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling because of, well, two main reasons. First of all, the departure of Harold May and the change of management in New Japan, but secondly, because of something that happened on a recent Dynamite. On the Chris Jericho 30th anniversary celebration show last week on Dynamite, there was a lot of mention of New Japan, whether it be people who used to work in New Japan, the fact that Lance Archer and Jon Moxley have clashed before in New Japan, or the shout out from Hiroshi Tanahashi to Chris Jericho. Tanahashi obviously being the big John Cena babyface mega star of New Japan Pro Wrestling over the past decade and a half. Well, Cody commented on this in this recent interview with the Asbury Park Press, saying, "I think you'll never see a full-scale, joint promoted show between AEW and another promotion. We have too much pride in our individual brand. But in terms of the relationships, we're never closing the doors and we're never going to pull up bridges. I laughed when I heard people talking about a working relationship with New Japan because clearly it already exists," Cody says. He goes on to give some examples. John Moxley has been on New Japan, Chris Jericho has been on New Japan. It already exists, the working relationship. The NWA owner Billy Corgan and Tony Khan are in contact. Thunder Rosa is the prime example of that. I loved seeing Tanahashi on TV last week. He's somebody I really wanted to get in the ring with at one time as far as singles matches are concerned, and never got the opportunity. And who knows, there may be something that can happen in the future, but our doors are open, our bridges are down. So what Cody's setting out there, I think, are two big precedences, two big rules basically. One, that AEW are unlikely to do a big full-on cross-promotional show with another promotion because they're too invested in their own personal brand. They're too confident in their own personal brand. But secondly, also, they're never going to deny working with another promotion. They're never going to burn bridges with a promotion. They're never going to cut anybody off. And I think, to be fair, he's raised a good point, because as recent activity with Thunder Rosa of the NWA has shown that AEW are willing to do that, and it's sort of in a way with New Japan as well, although I'd suggest that was maybe a bit of a one-way traffic kind of deal, because it wasn't like New Japan were loaning Naito over to AEW for a bit. But, I understand his point, and that may be something that could change in the future now that management, as I mentioned, has changed in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So it'll certainly be interesting to see what happens there between AEW and not just New Japan, but other promotions going forward. I imagine there is no shortage of, smaller promotions than AEW who would be desperate to enter into a bit of a working relationship with them. But obviously at the moment, with everything kind of shut down, it's limited opportunities across the board. Speaking of AEW, they have a big show this week. It's kind of been two big weeks in a row for AEW. Last week was the Chris Jericho 30th anniversary special. This week it's the anniversary of Dynamite as a TV show. It's been around for 1 year. And because of that, and because I think every title's being defended on that show, because it's a big stacked show in AEW, it looks like NXT have kind of bulked up their own show tonight to compete with AEW. So let's take a look at two big title matches announced for tonight's NXT. So first of all, Damian Priest will be defending his North American Championship against Dexter Loomis. That's a pretty big deal. I guess Priest has been on the rise recently, defeating Johnny Gargano at NXT TakeOver 31. Loomis has been out recovering from an injury. Now he's back. That could be a big important clash for certain. And the other one is an NXT Tag Team #1 contendership match. Excuse me, there weren't two title matches. There was one title match and one #1 contender match between the Brit and Brawlers, I assume that's Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, and the team of Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong, representing, of course, the Undisputed Era. And the winner of that match will go on to challenge for the NXT Tag Team titles. But it seems like the biggest match on the show tonight for NXT is that North American title match between Damian Priest and Dexter Loomis. It's kind of tying up a bit of a loose end as well, because remember, Loomis was meant to be in that North American title ladder match, but missed it due to injury. And that was the match, of course, where Damian Priest became North American champion. I can't personally see Damian Priest losing the belt against Loomis here. To be fair, you could argue that Loomis may have been who they wanted to win the belt in the first place, and now they're going to hotshot it straight onto him now that he's recovered from his injury. But I think even if that was the plan back then, Priest has impressed so much since winning the belt and developed so much as a character both in the ring and out of the ring. I feel like they might just keep it on Priest anyway for the time being, regardless of whether that was the original plan or not. And finally, a WWE Hall of Famer's daughter is set to get back into the ring, and it's none other than, it was his birthday recently, and there was lots of wonderful tributes online to him. One of my favourite wrestlers of all time, Eddie Guerrero, but his daughter Shoal Guerrero says that she wants to get back into the ring. Known as Latina Heat, because of course her father was Latino Heat, Guerrero used to wrestle in WWE Developmental back when it was FCW Florida Championship Wrestling before it became NXT. But apparently since parting ways with the company, she hasn't appeared in the ring, she hasn't wrestled since. She's still been involved with the industry, she's popped up here and there, but she hasn't actually wrestled a match since then. Until that is now, because Guerrero has taken to Twitter to announce that she will be getting back in the ring for Generation Championship Wrestling, GCW, where she'll be a competitor in their tournament to determine a new women's champion. And I should point out that this promotion, for the avoidance of confusion, is not GCW as in Game Changer Wrestling. This is a Florida-based organisation, which I think it's fair to say is a bit smaller than the other GCW, the one with, you know, loads of violence and Nick Gage and that, and yeah, and MDK and all that sort of stuff. But no, she's wrestling for this Florida-based Generation Championship Wrestling and will be competing in that tournament. So best of luck to Charles Guerrero. Hopefully she can get back in there and do what she does. Well, I don't know if she's very experienced at all, actually. I should probably do some... You know what? I'll have a Google right now. So you'll never guess what, but it turns out the notes I was given were wrong. I'm probably kicking off here because it turns out she did continue to wrestle in the NXT brand once it became NXT from FCW. So she actually made a televised debut on July 18th, 2012 under the character of an Ultra Diva on an exfoliating ugliness tour, and beat Paige in a singles match as well. Wow. So it turns out she's actually got quite a bit more experience than I thought she did. So fair play to her for getting back in the ring. She's only 29, 30 years old. It's her birthday today. No way. Happy 30th birthday, Ms. Guerrero, and best of luck in your return to the ring. So that is it for today's news video. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.